gurureva gati gurumeva bhaje gurunaiva sahasmi namo gurave na guruh paramam shishurasmi guruhu matirasti guru mama pahi guru Satchidanandarupaya Vishvotpatyati Hetave Tabatraya Vinashaya Sri Krishnaya Vayan Namaha Krishnaya Vasudevaya Haraye Paramatmane Pranadah Kleshanashaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Yam Pravrajjantamanubedamapedakrityam Dvaipayano Virahakadara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravobhinedustam Sarvabhuda Hridayam Munimanatosmi Narayanan namaskritya naranchaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayeeta Sarvebhyaha namaskaraha. We are saying Srimad Bhagavada Mahapurana and we have completed up to Canto 6 by the grace of Bhagavan Sri Hari. And from today we will see Canto 7. Canto 7 has 15 chapters, and the main concept or the main idea discussed in this chapter is how does our karmic impressions influence our life? If a person has done some papas, then that impressions will be there in his mind. Then he will disturb by the instigation of those impressions. He will disturb others, and by that way he will get cursed, or that again he will do the repercussions of that papa karma will affect him, and as a result of it, at one time he will worship Bhagavan or see the holy sages and get their blessings, and he will come out of their papa karmas. So like this, the papa karmas and the punya karmas will come alternatively. And in this chapter, in this canto, Sri Sukha Brahmarishi explains it with many incidents. One of the incidents is the story of Hiranyakashipu and Prahlada. Hiranyakashipu and his brother Hiranyaksha were the great attendants of Bhagavan Sri Hari in Vaikuntha. That is Jaya and Vijaya. By the curse of the rishis, they took birth as Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, and in their next birth, they took birth as Ravana and Kumbhakarna, then as Shishubala and Dantavaktra. So, and they attained Bhagavan by Vidvesha Bhakti. Vidvesha Bhakti means confrontation, by confrontation or anger towards Bhagavan or hatred towards Bhagavan. By that way, their mind was intensely attached to Bhagavan through confrontation, and as a result of that, their mind were purified, and at one stage, they just left everything and merged with Bhagavan. So all these were very clearly explained, and the story of Hiranyakashipu and Prahlada also comes in this canto. And apart from it, how the varnas and ashramas affect our spiritual life. All these are spiritual life and spiritual progress, all these are explained in this canto. So with the blessings of Bhagavan Sri Hari, we will see this canto. In the beginning of this canto, that is in the beginning of the first chapter, Parikshit Maharaja asked a question to Shuga Brahmarishi. Parikshit Maharaja asked a question that the Asuras as well as the Devas were the manifestation of Bhagavan. But Bhagavan kills Asuras to favor the Devas. How is it possible? He must have equal vision towards everyone, isn't it? Because he has transcended the gunas of Prakriti. Even in the world, if a person who is a bhakta or who is a jnani, he transcends this gunas of Prakriti, and he will have equal vision towards everyone. Whether he is maybe a sinner or a very great bhakta, he will have even vision. But how is it possible that Bhagavan, he is his own manifestations are the Ashuras and the Devas, but still he favors the Devas and he is against the Ashuras? How is it possible? And for that, Shuga Brahmarshi says that it's very good that you ask this question, because this may be their doubt in many of the bhaktas also in their mind. So it is good that you ask this question, Shuga Brahmarshi said, and he explained. निर्गुणोऽपि षड्जो व्यक्तो भगवान् प्रकृतेः परः स्वमाया गुणमाविश्य भाद्य भादकतां गतः. Bhagavan is nirguna, he transcends the gunas. He is ajaha, birthless. Avyakta, he does not have any passion or desires. And Bhagavan Prakriti Paraka, he is beyond the Prakriti. And Swamaya Gunamavishya, by using his power of Yoga Maya, he manifests both as Badhya, that's the attacker, and Badakada, as the attacked. So he manifests as the Deva savior as well as the Asuras. So both are the manifestations of Bhagavan only. Sattvam rajastama iti prakrtirnatmano gunaha natesham yugapadrajan hrasa ullasa eva va. The sattva, rajas and tamas, these are the gunas of Prakriti, and this will not affect the Atma. Bhagavan is beyond the Maya, and this sattva, rajas and tamas, it will not affect Atma. And hrasa, ullasa, this both will not happen at the same time. That is, at one time, one thing will be dominant. Automatically, the other will go down. At the other time, the negative force may be dominant, so the positive will automatically go down. So this is what will happen. Bhagavan will not lift both of it at the same time. One thing he will lift, other will automatically go down. So only this will happen. For example, when Sattva is dominant in this world, then the people who have Sattva, as a result of it, the Devas, the Rishis, they all will be dominant. At one time, the Rajas will be dominant in the nature. So the Asuras and all the people who have that Rajasic nature, they will be dominant, and the people who have Sattvic nature, they will go down. And just like that, at some time, the Tamas will be dominant. Then the Yakshas and Rakshasas, they will be dominant, and all the other both will automatically go down. So like this only, it will come alternatively. And Sukha Brahmarishi says that the Lord transcends the Prakriti. He is beyond the Prakriti, that is the three gunas of Maya, but his nature is reflected in the medium of the Prakriti. That is, his nature is reflected in the body and mind of the beings. So, when the Tattva is dominant in nature, the Sattvic people, they will be dominant, but they also reflect the gunas of Bhagavan. At the same time, they have Sattvic nature, so they will be dominant. When the Rajasic nature is dominant in this world, they also have the reflection of Bhagavan in them. But because of their Rajasic nature, when Rajas is dominant in this world, they will be in everything. So like this for the Tamas also. So at a time, only one guna will be dominant, but the nature of Bhagavan is reflected in all the beings regardless of the gunas. When Sattva is dominant, some people will win. Rajas is dominant, some people will win. But there is no partiality in Bhagavan. In the entire Prakriti, his nature will be reflected, says Shuga Brahmarishi. And he says that when the Supreme Being Brahman, he wanted to create this creation, to bring up this creation, to facilitate the jivas to expiate their karmas, then he will increase his Rajasic nature. When he wants to sustain this creation and when he wants to take avatars, then he will increase his sattvic nature. When he wants to destroy this world, for example, in Pralaya, he will increase the tamasic nature. So everything will be destroyed. So all this is done by the time only. Bhagavan increases all this based on the time. All this is monitored by the time. And the time, that is Kala, is another aspect of his Maya. So with the help of this Maya, Bhagavan plays it like this. And that's why the great rishis say that this world is just merely a play of Bhagavan. It is just like the playground for Bhagavan, just like how when we are children, we used to play with clays, we used to make small figures, and we used to combine it, separate it, like that. We now also we see when we go to the seashore, many children they will just keep the sand, play with the sand. So just like this, Bhagavan uses his yoga Maya, his power of Maya, and he plays in this world. So there is no need to take seriously about the success or failure because everything is the play of Bhagavan, and there is no point in worrying over it or being happy over it because all this is the play of Bhagavan. A being is that Atma who is not different from Bhagavan. Actually, in this world or in this creation, only Brahman or Atma or Bhagavan exists. All these forms and namas are just Maya, says Shuka Brahmarshi. And he explains it by telling about an incident that happened in the Rajasuya Yajna of King Yudhishthira. In the Rajasuya Yajna, all the rishis and everyone came there. And King Yudhishthira asked a very important and very needed question to sage Narada. He asked that the King Yudhishthira asked that how come that Shishubala, he merged with Bhagavan? There are so many rishis and bhaktas who wanted to merge in Bhagavan. But all that were not possible for them. But this person, Shishubala, from the time of the birth itself, he had some confrontation with Bhagavan. He always hated Bhagavan. He always had anger towards Bhagavan. Shishubala and Dandabhakta were the cousins of King Yudhishthira, but they are completely opposite to their nature and they always had some confrontation with Bhagavan Krishna. But in the end, they merged in Bhagavan Krishna. How is it possible? And King Yudhishthira said that in the ancient time, the tyrant King Vena, he also had so much anger towards Bhagavan, but he did not merge in Bhagavan. Instead, he went to the purgatory for opposing Bhagavan. So how is it possible? Is it not both that opposite? And the sage Narada said that a being is the Atma. If he identifies with the Atma, then he will not feel any pain of this body or mind. But at the same time, any embodied being, a jiva in the embodied state, he does not understand the difference between the Prakriti and the Purusha. As a result of it, he always identifies with the body and mind. And because of that, he thinks that all that pain and suffering that coming to the body and mind are his pain and his suffering. Actually, it is the suffering of the body and mind, and it is not the body and mind is not the jiva. The jiva is the atma, but the jiva forgets it, and because of that forgetfulness, he suffers a lot, said Sage Narada. And Sage Narada said, it is for this reason one must always worship Bhagavan, attain the purity of mind, and identify with the Atma. Then we will not find any, realize or experience any pain of the body or mind, or we may experience, but we will not consider it as our pain or suffering. And he tells that Tasmat Vairanu Nirvairena Bhayena Va Snehat Kamena Va Yunjad Kathanchid Nokshate Pritaka. It is very important to always have the mind constantly attached to Bhagavan. It may be through any emotions. Bhagavan says that it may be through Vairanubandha, that is in anger or in hatred, Nirvairena or without anger, Bhayena in fear, or Sneha, that is in love or kindness, Kamena in lust or passion. So, whatever the emotions it may be does not matter, because whatever the emotion may be, when we think of Bhagavan through that emotion, at one time all the emotions will shed off and the mind will become pure and it will permanently merge with Bhagavan. That's what happened to Shishubala. Because Shishubala always had Vidvesha bhakti towards Bhagavan, hatred, anger towards Bhagavan. And by that way, his mind was so much attached to him. At one stage, his mind was purified, and that hatredness in a second shed off and he merged in Bhagavan. That's what happened in Shishubala. So it is very important to always think about Bhagavan. Always the mind should be constantly attached with Bhagavan. Whatever emotions it may be, it doesn't matter. Through whatever emotions it may be, it doesn't matter. And Sage Narada gives a few examples that the Gopikas, they attained Bhagavan through lust, and Kamsa through fear. Shishubala, the king of Chedi, he is through hatred. Vrishnis through friendship. Arjuna through affection. The sages through bhakti and jnana. But the tyrant king Vena, he did not think about Bhagavan itself. He only opposed Bhagavan. He did not have any bhakti towards Bhagavan. So he went to the purgatory. But your cousins, through hatred, they were attached with Bhagavan, and so they attained moksha, explained Sage Narada. And Sage Narada made it more clear about how this Shishubala was born. His previous history was explained to King Yudhishthira by Sage Narada. Sage Narada said, once the four Sanat Kumara rishis, the Sanaka, Sanantana, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara, these four rishis, they were the mind-born sons of Brahma. Even though they were great rishis and ancient people, they looked so young, just like a 5 or 6 year old child. And because they were Paramahamsas, they were not aware of the body itself, so they will be always unclad. And they were just going around this universe. And at one point, they came to Vaikuntha and they just went inside the Vaikuntha. At that time, two chief attendants of Bhagavan Sri Hari, Jaya and Vijaya, they both obstructed them. And the sages got very angry. Who are you? You are obstructing us from entering into Vaikuntha. And the reason the Jaya and Vijaya attendants gave was, you were not clad. So in such a situation, in such a state, you cannot go and meet Bhagavan Sri Hari. He is in deep meditation. And moreover, children are not allowed to go inside Vaikuntha. They were ancient rishis, but without understanding their spiritual power, Jaya and Vijaya said, children are not allowed inside Vaikuntha, so you are not allowed. And they blocked the Sanat Kumara rishis from going inside Vaikuntha. And the Sanat Kumara rishis, they got very angry and said, Kupita, and they said, Ashapan kupita yevam yuvam vasam na charhataham rajastamobhyam rahite padamule madurvishaha pavishtamasurim yonim bhalishauyadamashvatah. You are not allowed to stay here as the attendants of Sri Hari, because the attendants of Sri Hari or whoever associated with this Vaikuntha must have the dominant Sattva Guna. But your nature is dominant in Rajas and Tamas. That's why you ridiculed us without understanding our spiritual nature or spiritual power. So you are not fit to be here in Vaikuntha, and you are fit to be born in the Pabishtanam asurim yonim. Because of the pava you have done, you are fit to be born as the Ashura. And they were cursed like this, that Jaya and Vijaya were cursed by the Sanat Kumara rishis in this way. And the Jaya and Vijaya chief attendants, they were so worried about it, so much worried about it. And they requested the Sanat Kumara rishis to forgive them. And the Sanat Kumara rishis also felt, had some mercy towards them, because to attain this position as the attendants of Sri Hari is just a great, it's a great thing. They must have been great bhaktas, and that's why they attained this position. So at one time, they had some mercy towards Jaya and Vijaya, and they said, Punarjanma Visham Tribhir Lokaya Kalpatam. You will take 3 consecutive births, and after that, your mind will be so much intensely attached with Bhagavan, and you will automatically come back to this same position. So do not worry. But you have to take 3 births. And since you wanted to come very soon to Bhagavan, you will have vidvesha bhakti towards Bhagavan, that is hatred towards Bhagavan. And they requested that in the 3 janmas also Bhagavan should kill us. So how can Bhagavan, Sri Hari kill them? Only in anger Bhagavan can kill them. So they have to do something wrong. So Bhagavan will get angry with them, and Bhagavan will kill them, and they will attain Bhagavan after 3 janmas. And that's how in the first janma they took the Asuric birth as Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. In the next janma, in the next birth, they took the Rakshasa, birth of the Rakshasa as Ravana and Kumbhakarna. And in the third birth, they took birth as man, as Shishubhala and Dantavaktra. The difference between the Asuras and Rakshasas is, the Asuras, they only fight with the Devas. They won't fight with men and all. But the Rakshasas or man-eaters, they will fight with men and also with the Devas. So they have that universal power, and they are so much with the tamasic nature. So they took the 3 births consecutively, and as the birth of the man, that Jaya and Vijaya were born as the Shishubhala and Dantavaktra, and they had hatred towards Bhagavan, because only then their mind will be so much intensely attached to Bhagavan. Even we can see in the ordinary world, when we have some enmity towards someone, then our mind will constantly think of them. Even when we love someone, we won't think that much constantly. But when we have enmity towards someone, constantly our mind will be thinking about them. So just like that, their mind was so intensely attached to Bhagavan at the time, remembering Bhagavan all the time in hatred and anger. And in that way, the mind was purified. And at one time, that the last moment, they just felt all these are not needed. At that time, Bhagavan took them. He merged the Atma, that is the Jiva of Jaya and Vijaya, who took consecutive births, and they attained Bhagavan. So this story was narrated to King Yudhishthira by sage Narada. And in the next chapter, King Yudhishthira requests sage Narada that how come Hiranyakashipu had great anger towards Prahlada? How was it possible? And that is explained in the next chapter, which we will see in my next upload. Om Namo Narayana Khila Guru Bhagavan Namaste. Om Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.